Welcome to Wednesday Night Slides number 30. A couple of items before we get started. For those who ordered my South Jersey book, it is at the printer as we speak, printed. I'm going up there tomorrow to pick it up. And then over the next Friday, Saturday, and Monday, I'll be doing mail drops. They should all be in the mail by Monday. You should all see them by the end of next week, I would hope. I think that's the only other thing I have to announce before the show starts. The show tonight has two segments. We're going to start off in southern New Jersey, exploring some neon and other lights down in Wildwood. And then we're going to head out west for some mainline steam action later in the show. So let me get things cranking here. Share screen. Desktop 2 and share. And you all should be seeing the title slide right about now. So among the things I shoot, one of the things I like shooting is neon. And unfortunately, we have a place here in South Jersey that has loads of neon. The Wildwoods, which are three towns, Wildwood Crest, Wildwood, and North Wildwood from south to north. They were early adherents or early embracers of traveling by car. See the USA and their Chevrolet. While Atlantic City was still relying largely on rail service, Wildwood made itself car friendly. And as part of that, a huge number of motels sprung up in Wildwood and the two surrounding towns. And even though a lot of them are gone, Wildwood remains probably the biggest collection of mid-century motels in one place in the entire country. And a lot of those motels have neon. So anyhow, I started off, this was actually just couple nights ago. I started off with dinner at the Doo-Wop Diner, 1950s themed diner, obviously. And Wildwood's motel district is called the Doo-Wop District, based on, of course, on the sounds of 50s music. It wasn't quite dark yet, so I did some exploring of the boardwalk in Wildwood. Nice big wooden roller coaster. I was tempted to ride this, but I didn't know what I'd do with my camera while I was riding. But I love these wooden roller coasters. Oh, I don't have the chat called up here. Let me see if I can get the chat. No, let me see. Oh, here we go. More chat. There. Okay. Now, if there's any comments in chat, I will probably see them eventually. Monster truck ride there with the wooden roller coaster coming downhill in the background. Wildwood has the trams on the boardwalk. Watch the tram, please. The lady driving, I took this shot here, and the guy sitting right behind her there, just to her left, to our left, he yelled out to me, "This is her first trip as a driver." So here's a rookie coming down the boardwalk with the tram car. And we got a tram car here in front of the Wildwoods Convention Center. Okay, it's getting dusk now, so I'm starting to look for some neon. And right across from where I parked the car was the Oceanic. Part of why I was really curious to go down there this time was I wanted to see how well the neon and the motels survived the pandemic, because of course last year the summer season was pretty much lost. And I'm happy to say that most of the motels appeared to be sold out when I was down there, and this was a weeknight. So the crown jewel of the Wildwood motels is the Caribbean. It's the most classic of the 1950s motels. Big, large neon sign on top. It's got the Jetsons jetway coming from the pool up to the upper level there. Real classic motel. And you see it's packed. So this is getting a little sun had set. A little bit of orange in the sky, probably from the smoke from the fires out west. The Seagull Motel. I check this out. Most of the neon works here. The office sign is very dim though with its arrow, and where it says Seagull, there is actually white neon surrounding those letters, and that's out, although the blue outline is lit. Here's the other side of the Seagull Motel sign. This side here has its white neon working around the letters. Across the street is the Adventurer with a big sign on top. What I found really surprising as taking these pictures is that neon must not have a constant feed to it. It must pulsate faster than your eye can see, but slower than the camera can catch. All those signs in the all those letters in the Adventurer to the naked eye all look the same as far as illumination goes. But the various shots I took of the Adventurer, different letters have different brightness to them in many of the shots. My two favorite combinations are the Caribbean and the Bel Air across the street from each other. Two great motels, even though the Bel Air isn't neon. It is definitely mid-century. And these two side by side are my favorite motel combination down there in Wildwood. The Gondolier is there. When they put these motels in, they all came with exotic names that like the Caribbean, Gondolier, inspired by faraway places, or they were space age names, the astronaut, the satellite, things like that. Here's the Villanova. It's neon all lit up. Cool motel is the Alakai. That's got the palm trees and everything else, and a great neon sign on top of it. The Biscayne. The Diamond Crest. Some of these I got to clean up a little bit noise-wise. The hard part when shooting neon and trying to get the buildings in the picture as well is there's quite a contrast between the buildings and the neon. Shoot too long of an exposure, you'll blow out the neon to get the building. Too short of an exposure, well, you got the neon properly exposed, but it's a real struggle to bring the building out of the darkness. So that's quite a contrast. This was the first time I've been down here 3 or 4 or 5 times now. This was the first time in one of my Wildwood trips that the Imperial 500 had all of its letters and the crown all illuminated. Before I've seen the crown out, I've seen a couple of letters out, but this time it was totally functional. Some of the neon wasn't as good as it was in 2019. Last time I was there, the astronaut was just the Astron. The Jolly Roger was the Jolly Rog. So there were some letters out. The Blue Marlin, one of my favorites. Simple serif font neon sign with a Blue Marlin outline, wasn't lit at all. And the Grenada, which had a beautiful blue large neon sign on top of it to match its blue lights in the office. The whole sign was gone. Just no sign wasn't there at all. The Gold Crest. This was the first time I've seen the Gold Crest completely illuminated. In 2019, it said Old Crest. The G was burned out. The Caramara. And all these motels here are in Wildwood or south at Wildwood Crest. There's just so much to see. I didn't have time to get to North Wildwood at all. And one I hadn't seen before was Le Voyager. For some reason, either it's a brand new sign or somehow I missed it, but it's right in downtown Wildwood. I don't know how I would have missed it, but that was a bit of a surprise. I was leaving town. It just caught my eye, and so that's a new sign for my collection. From here, we're going to head out west. I think that's what's up next. Yes, head out west for some steam. We're going to start off near the middle of the country. We're going to start off in Wisconsin and check out Soo Line 1003, 282. And most of the shots you'll see here are from charters put on by the late Dave Goodhart and Goodhart Productions. These trips here featured a freight train behind the 1003, and we followed along by car and met at different places for the run-bys. This is in Palmyra, or maybe Palmyra, Wisconsin. Nice Purina barn there. A real chunky locomotive. Pretty impressive. This is at Whitewater. And Beaver Dam. Nice plume for the run-by. Moving right along, we get some cows in Brandon, Wisconsin. And some birds. Still in Brandon, still with the cows. We've had a variety of freight consists over the different trips. Here you see we're right behind the locomotive are some dump ballast cars. This is in Brandon, night photo we did. We recruited this family who just happened to be out watching looking at the locomotive, just recruited them to pose in the shot. Nice long causeway at Beaver Dam. The glistening off the water caught us by surprise. We weren't expecting that. When they had scouted the locations, they had smooth water here. So it was really kind of cool to get a little bit of a breeze kicking up the water and giving us all these sparkles. They are not the back in Brandon. Those are not Mike Schaefer's inflatable cows. Mike's got a reputation for carrying inflatable cows in his car trunk to set up for shots. This is at Beaver Dam at sunset, same causeway. We did night photos in Horicon. This is all on the Wisconsin and Southern Railroad, and Horicon is their headquarters. These are all from 2004 to 2006. Some of them are film originals. I switched to digital in early 2006. So some of these were shot on slides originally. Here we are tending to the coal in Randolph. And this is also in Randolph. I decided to go real low for a going away shot here to get the Soo Line Herald on the tender prominent in the photo. John Godfrey, with some Canadian humor, says the 1003 shots are utterly impressive. Okay. This is at Woodland, Wisconsin. And you see here we had a gondola right behind the locomotive that was okay, but a little bit ratty. Better train with some hopper cars behind the engine. Once again, we just recruited a family off the street to pose in the shot here at Fairwater. This shot here, I'm not sure where it is. I got tons of shots from these trips where I haven't gone back and figured out exactly where I was yet. Someday I'll figure it out. This shot here, I think, is in Randolph. I think This is the coming at you shot for the low going away shot I showed a few minutes ago. From there, we're going down to Missouri to check out Frisco 1522, a 482 locomotive, the loudest locomotive I have ever heard. You can hear this coming miles away, but it's got a real loud exhaust to it. I had this shot labeled as somewhere in Missouri. I chased it a couple of times. First time was at the 1995 NRHS convention, I believe was in St. Louis. But the big trip I chased was when it ran to the Atlanta convention in 1994. St. Louis would have been 1990. So this is the 1994 convention was in Atlanta. It ran from Springfield or from, Springfield, Missouri, no, St. Louis to Springfield, which was west, and changed directions and headed southeast across Alabama and Mississippi to get to Atlanta for the NRHS convention. This is in Macomb, Missouri, on the way to Atlanta. This is on home rails too. This is on the old Frisco, going through Hoxie, Arkansas. This is in West Lebanon, Missouri. These shots here aren't necessarily in order. I try to keep them at least by year, but geographically, they may be out of order. New Albany, Mississippi. And here it is, coming into Atlanta, crossing over the Chattahoochee River, double-headed with Norfolk and Western 611 for the final leg of the trip into Atlanta. After the Atlanta convention, it went up to Chattanooga, once again double-headed with the 611. Here it is passing the National Cemetery in Chattanooga. Next up, we're going to go to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and check out Cotton Belt 819, a 484. And gosh, look at the front end of this thing. One of the handsomest locomotives I've ever seen. This is how a steam locomotive front end should look. Really nicely proportioned. Uh, 819 lives at the Cotton Belt Museum in Pine Bluff, which has the shop building there. And the 819 was actually constructed in that very building. The big chase I did with it was for the convention in St. Louis in 1990. It ran from Pine Bluff up to St. Louis over 2 days, mostly on old Cotton Belt Railroad, original home rails for it. Here it is going through Dexter, Missouri. Sandy says that the 819 ended up on a beer label. Erie Railbender Ale. Erie? It's meeting a Cotton Belt freight in Bernie, Missouri. SSW, that's actually the Cotton Belt's official name, St. Louis Southwestern. Passed under a signal bridge in McClure, Illinois. We were chasing this train. A little story here. I'll digress. Little story. We were chasing this train, and there must have been 200 cars in the motorcade. It was incredible, just absolutely incredible. And we came up on one of those places where the road is under construction, and a temporary traffic light is controlling one lane of traffic. And it's green for our direction, and cars are flying through the light well. Suddenly the light goes to yellow, and then it goes to red. And I turned to my brother and said, if the car in front of us goes, I'm going. Well, the car in front of us went, so I went. Looked in the rear view mirror, nobody stopped. The entire motorcade ran through that red light. The person on the other end probably got a green and probably still saw 50 cars coming out through the other end of the construction zone. This is the bridge at Thebes, Illinois, crossing the Mississippi River. Fortunately, the track we're standing on is out of service. There's actually some rail equipment down in the under the truss there, and you can see they're surfacing the track here, which is fortunate because between the rail that the 819 is on and the cement wall to the right there, we must have had photographers, must have been about 50 or 60 photographers stacked 5 or 6 deep to get this shot here. Passing through downtown Altheimer, Arkansas. When I was doing research trying to figure out where the shot was taken, I called up this town on the on Google Earth, and the reason why I couldn't find it initially was because a lot of this downtown is gone now. Going past the elevators in Weiner, Arkansas. Not sure where this was taken. This is going to really take some research because I don't think the tractor is still going to be there on Google Earth when I go looking for it, being that this was 1990. And of course, its destination was St. Louis for the NRHS convention. Here it is in St. Louis Union Station, 819 on the left. Big gathering of steam. To the right of the 819 is Norfolk and Western 1218, 2884. No, 2664. Has 18 wheels. 2664. Yeah, 2664. To the right of the 1218 is Union Pacific 484, 844. And then on the far right is Frisco 1522 that we saw a little bit earlier. And Sandy notes that 3 of the 4 are no longer active. That is true. Only the 844 still runs. Now we're going to head on down to the far west. We're going to head for Arizona and check out Santa Fe 3751. I've seen it run twice. It's based out of Los Angeles, actually. And the first time I saw it run was for the 1999 NRHS convention. Or was it rail? Must have been rail fair. In Sacramento. This was combined, and convention and rail fair. So anyhow, headed out to chase it on its way home. I didn't get there in time to chase it on the way in. Went to chase it on its way home, got down to I wanted to see it go around Tehachapi Loop. Seeing the Santa Fe steam engine go around Tehachapi Loop was quite the goal. But unfortunately, it got delayed and got delayed and got delayed some more. And we went all the way down to Caliente, which is fairly almost the base of Tehachapi. And it's quite a climb, a long climb up. But anyhow, I didn't get there until about sunset. So here it is coming into Caliente at sunset. This shot here and the next shot were taken from the exact same location. All I did was turn around about 180 degrees. There's a huge horseshoe curve at Caliente. So the engine came by, hit that curve, and I turned around, got this going away shot going by the signal. And then it got dark. So we went to Tehachapi Loop with a huge crowd there. And while we couldn't get any photographs, we did listen to it and watch it go around Tehachapi Loop in the dark. But the best time I had with the locomotive was at the 2002 NRHS convention in Williams, Arizona. The engine was there for the convention, and Dave Goodhart, once again from Goodhart Productions, he chartered the engine for a photo trip on the Grand Canyon Railway. And this was my second, I think. No, it's been more than my second, but anyhow, this was a hardcore charter. And Dave told us to check. This was top secret too. We didn't want any chasers out following us. We were sworn to secrecy. And he said, check in with him the day before the trip. And he'd give us all the information we needed. So I checked in with him the day before. And he said, be on the train at 3:45 for a 4 a.m. departure. I'm like, what? Well, yep, that's what we did. We snuck out of town at 4 a.m. to be at this spot here in time for sunrise. And this is quite the charter. We had the 3751 leading a string of the 5 Harriman coaches, which looked just right. 1940s train. Really, really, really sweet. Here's our train arriving at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And we ran run-bys all the way up till sunset. Here we are somewhere on the flatlands. That rise you see way off in the distance is going to be the north rim of the Grand Canyon. This was quite a trip. Probably one of the best charters I've ever been on, if not the best. Really, really cool. And Sandy just filled in a gap I've been wondering. He said the last shot, I guess the previous one of this, was taken at Wooden. I'll need to check the maps and tag it on my photos. When it left Williams, Arizona, head back to Los Angeles, it had to cross over the Hell Canyon Bridge. Here we see it crossing the Hell Canyon Bridge. With a more hodgepodge consist than just the Harriman coaches, obviously. A lot of private cars, some Amtrak cars, and Amtrak diesels to provide power to the coaches and nudge the engine along if it needed it. William, who's also down in Arizona, he just posted a fun fact. You can see that ridge of the north rim of the canyon from the Southwest Chief if it's running late enough. Next engine up on the list, SP&S, Spokane, Portland, and Seattle 700. Another 484, based out of Portland, Oregon. And fortunately, it does a lot of running on its old home rails, former SP&S rails, now operated by BNSF. And the classic SP&S spot on the railroad is Cape Horn. We're on the north side of the Columbia River. Oregon is just across the river. And we're probably about 20 miles out of the metro Portland area, working east. But Cape Horn is one spot that I had to get the train. Unfortunately, the classic shot's from the other side of the tracks, and we were rousted out of there by BNSF people because there's not a lot of room over there. But we'll get more of that a little bit later on. This was a trip that ran over 4 days up to Pasco. Here it is in the Columbia River Gorge at Dallsport. Across the river is the Dalles, Oregon. And these are all slide originals. So this trip had to be before 2006. I believe it was 2004. Another fun thing, the original SP&S alignment, you can see the tunnel for it just above the 700 there. When they dammed the Columbia in places, it caused flooding and they had to relocate the SP&S main line. So here we see the locomotive with an original SP&S tunnel there behind it. 2001, Jonathan says, was the year this was running. Okay, thank you. This was a photo run by at Avery. I was chasing the train. So when I'm chasing, I let the paying customers form the photo lines first, because I've seen it a few times already. This is their first chance to see the locomotive. when they get off for the run by. So I let them form the photo line. Then I just found a spot where it wasn't in any of their way to get my shot. It was a really good run by. This is up in Mesa, Washington. And arriving in Pasco. This is at Paha, Washington, grain elevators. If there's a grain elevator, I'm there to get a picture. I like grain elevators in my shots. Once again, a photo run by. So we filled in. We let them from the photo line first. And actually, the photo line is behind us by about 100 yards. We found a pile of ballast we could crouch down behind and be out of their shot to get this. And once again, grain elevators. We're in Hatton, Washington. So at the NRHS convention in Portland in 2005, I ran the night photo session for the convention. And as a thank you, they gave me a parlor car ticket for the trip from Portland out to Wishram, Washington, behind double-headed 700 and Southern Pacific 4449. And the 4449 was supposed to lead. And I thought, okay, I've chased the 4449 through the gorge before. I think I'll ride this one. Well, then I found out the day before that no, the 700 was going to lead. And all of a sudden, all I could think of was Cape Horn. Have to get back to Cape Horn and get the shot. Well, this time we weren't chased out. And I got my shot of the 700 in the most classic of SP&S places coming out of the tunnel at Cape Horn. I chased the train on up to Wishram and got there. Doyle McCormick, the caretaker of the 4449, was up in the engine. And he leaned down and saw me and said, hey, come on up. So I went on up and I actually got a cab ride, a short cab ride on the doubleheader as they turned the train on the Y at Wishram. I'm in the cab of the 4449 looking ahead at the 700. One engine I have not seen enough of, but it's a beautiful engine. Southern Pacific 462 2472. It was part of the San Jose convention for the NRHS in 1992. And here's the night photo we did with it in Santa Clara, just north of San Jose. The previous year, it ran to rail fair in 91, and it ran very late. And all I got was pretty much this one shot of it going up to rail fair. Back to 92 again. It's in the Santa Clara yard. That's the 4449, which we're going to get to in a minute, in the background there. And a pair of Southern Pacific steam locomotives, perhaps stablemates at one time on the SP. And the grand finale of the 92 convention was a doubleheader, the 2472 and the 4449. This was the photo run by at Watsonville Junction. And with that, we're going to segue into the 4449. Here's the caretaker of the 4449, Doyle McCormick. He keeps an eye on the locomotive. He's the engineer most of the time when it runs. He does all the maintenance on it with him and his team, not him by himself. And this was the Pete Laro night photo session up in Portland. We had Doyle pose for us with his bowler cap and the locomotive in the background. Yes, Jim says that was yeah. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Aramis or Aromas, and that is correct. It was not Watsonville Junction, the doubleheader run by. And I actually knew that, and I goofed it up anyhow. Thanks, Jim. Close enough, he says. Good. 4449 lives in the Oregon Rail Heritage Center in Portland, along with the 700. Here we see the 700 undergoing its federally mandated 15-year rebuild in the background. My first encounter with the 4449 was in 1991 when it went from Portland down to Sacramento, the California State Railroad Museum for rail fare. I caught up with it on the morning of the second day of the trip in Klamath Falls, Oregon. And here we see it leaving Klamath Falls. Beautiful, beautiful train set, matching from locomotive to observation car in the back. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous train set. This is somewhere near, I think, Doris, Oregon, just above the California state line. Or it could be Doris, California, just below the Oregon state line. Anyhow, we were, once again, a couple hundred cars chasing. And California has, we call them California customs, checkpoints going into the state. And for produce, bringing in stuff you shouldn't bring into the state because of disease, insects and things like that. Anyhow, this checkpoint here on this particular highway, it's a pretty quiet highway normally. And all of a sudden, this checkpoint had about 200 cars descend upon it all at once. Fortunately, they just started waving us through. This is in Biggs. Once again, great looking train set. Once again, grain elevators. This is Castle Crag. And when I got to this spot here, I thought, you know what? This is such a stunning shot. I can't screw this up. At the time, I was using Nikon, I think an FM. But I had one of those power winders on it, with the MD-11s, I think they were. And those power winders would occasionally screw up, not fire or just screw up. When we got to this shot here, it looks so good. I said, you know what? I'm not going to motor drive this shot. I am going to take the power winder off and fire one frame manually because I don't want to screw this up. Here it is coming into Sacramento. It crosses over the American River here, and there's a junction here called Elvis, E-L-V-A-S, Elvis. That's Elvis Tower in the background. Back then, the tower was there. Since this was taken, the California State Railroad Museum acquired the top floor of the structure. The rest of it was removed. It is true that the building has left Elvis. Now we're back at the NRHS convention in '92, the 2472 and the 4449. Back to the '91 trip. This is crossing over Salt Creek, an arm of Lake Shasta, which, as you can see, there was way down. That bridge down there, that road bridge in the foreground there, that's usually underwater. That's the old highway. Thanks for the rim shot there, John. Appreciate it. This was a photo run by for the '92 NRHS convention in, near Pinole, California. The train was backing up, and I didn't know Doyle at the time, but I was with a friend who knew Doyle. And the photo line was probably a quarter mile behind us here. We were chasing. So the train's backing up, and it's getting ready to stop almost where we are. for the run by. We're like, crap, we're going to miss the startup. Well, my friend yelled down, "Hey, Doyle!" And Doyle looked up and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And then we heard on the radio, Doyle says, "We need to back up another 17 car lengths." I said, yes, that worked. So Doyle backed it up far enough for us to get our shot too. And here's the normal. That was the telephoto. Here's the normal. This is at Rail Fair in 1999. The 4449 along with the Santa Fe 3751 together there. This is a 2005 NRHS convention in Portland. The night photo I had told you about earlier that they gave me the free ticket for the train ride. Doyle was in charge of setting things up here, and I said, "What can we do?" He says, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, I want the 4449, the 700, and your PA." Excuse me. Doyle owns the PA diesel on the left there. "And your PA all sticking out of the roundhouse." Doyle said, "Sure, no problem. Great." This was one convention where they knew what they were doing. We're in Oregon in July. It doesn't get dark up there until late. And you'd be surprised how many NRHS conventions I've done night photo sessions for in June, where they run the night photo session from 8 to 10 p.m. Well, I mean, it's not dark until 9:15, for crying out loud. This convention here, they scheduled the night photo session to run from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Yes, 2 a.m. was the scheduled conclusion of the night photo session. Like, yeah, they know what they're doing. Very cool. Going back to that shot of the 4449 on the Salt Creek Trestle, Ralph says that's actually the bridge that that burned out in California in the forest fire out there that burned during the last couple of weeks. That has the UP main line shut down and the Coast Starlight not running. It's gonna be a while for that bridge gets fixed. It's a mess. Here we see the 4449 in the Columbia River Gorge at Lyle, Washington. The Columbia Gorge is like one of my favorite places to go. I can't wait for winter rail to come back. Because winter rail is held in Corvallis, Oregon. And I always block out a day or two to get up into the gorge. This is up in Washington State. This is a trip that the 4449 ran. I think this was the Stampede Pass trip, the first one. Anyhow, other railroads ran in this area. And if you look carefully, up top center of the photo, there's a bridge in the background, and that's the old Milwaukee Road right of way back there. Back in the gorge again, we're at Stevenson, doubleheader, the 4449 along with the 700 during the 2005 NRHS convention. And this was another Stampede Pass trip. This is on Stampede Pass, coming out of tunnel number 4. Great big engine coming out of a really, really narrow tunnel. This is pretty impressive. This is the Tacoma convention. 4449 running south out of Tacoma. This is Bridge 14 at Steilacoom, Washington. A very interesting scissors lift bridge. Kind of cool to watch this bridge in action. And this shot I screwed up. This is one of my, yeah, 2010 is what Jonathan's, yeah, that's the correct year. This is in 2010. This shot I screwed up. I was so worried about watching the poles. So I didn't get the nose of the engine behind up one of the poles. I forgot to watch my up and down my vertical. And I should have included a lot less sky and a lot more water. This shot will never happen again. But I really would like to have this one back. Back in the gorge again. Oh, same shot. Back with Lyle again. That shot got in twice. I'm not sure how that happened. At the Tacoma Convention in 2010, we did a night photo session at Tacoma Rail, their yard, their big at the port there. And the daylight was the 4449 was based there during the convention. So we got there for our night photo session, and the folks here at Tacoma Rail were wonderful. Their yard office is right here, and when we started the shooting, the folks from Tacoma Rail said, "Hey, if you want to go up on the tower and get shots, feel free to do so." I'm like, "Okay." So a few at a time, we went up the steps to the top of the tower and got an elevated shot with the port in the background. 2011, Chris says that's correct. Okay, not 2010. 2010 was Scranton conventions. The last time I saw the 4449 was a Pete Laro photo charter. Of course, we couldn't go anywhere. We had to stay at the Oregon Rail Heritage Center, but we did this shot here featuring some World War II reenactors in the observation car looking out at the daylight. And we did some really spectacular night stuff too. It was really, really, really cool. And that is going to bring an end to this week's Wednesday night slides. So thank you all for watching, and